The first thing which I want all of my MSME, SME members to remember is world is flat and almost the world clock has become zero. Everyone has now become equalized. Almost every one of us have become equalized. So it's like starting our life from zero again. Assuming sometimes we believe, sometimes we think, oh, if I was a small child, how would I have started my life? It's like that. We have all become a small child. We need to restart our life. Some of us are in sectors where perhaps we don't need to restart, but God has been fortunate. We are in a sector like, say, pharmaceutical sector. You are manufacturing medicine or helping in the manufacturing of medicine. You are perhaps already in the right sector. Even there, changes are going to take place. Happy to discuss it later. But assuming for a moment you're in a restaurant business, things are going to change. And if I now get stuck in restaurant business and thinking, oh, things are going to change in 3 months' time, 6 months' time, 1 year's time, then we are perhaps in a fool's paradise. So my first suggestion to all of you is, not suggestion, perhaps an advice, that all of us have to reinvent ourselves in our mind. Let's not get stuck in what we were doing. Yes, it is very difficult to reinvent ourselves. It's not easy. We have to tell our children to do so in their studies. Children or students who are studying, they have to reinvent themselves as to what they've studied so far. We, the businessmen, have to reinvent ourselves as to how we are doing business. In our lives, we have to reinvent ourselves as to how we used to conduct our life, whether it's entertainment, meeting people, greeting, drinking, eating, whatever. So I have 5 suggestions to make, ladies and gentlemen. It's very difficult, I know. All of us here are definitely suffering tremendously because of lack of cash and lack of funds. There's so much uncertainty in front of us, and at a time like this, perhaps a little brainstorming might help. I have 5 suggestions to make. The first suggestion, ladies and gentlemen, is we, the businessmen, do things for selling. We make something, we produce something, we service something for selling. Is there a market for it anymore? So first try to see that the sector I am, are there customers still, are there consumers still to buy my product or buy my service? So the first aspect which needs to be considered. Is the voice clear, just to ask everyone?
Yes, it's clear. Loudly.
Okay. Now, maybe I'll come a little closer. Okay, so the first aspect we need to understand is there a customer for my business? I gave an example of restaurants. The restaurant business perhaps will be one of the most affected because where people may not, with the social distancing concept in mind, people may not go to the restaurants as much they used to be earlier. Now, will people stop eating? No, the answer is no. They are not going to stop eating. So what is the business opportunity? Can I therefore serve or service people from my home or from my cloud kitchen, which will be COVID compliant? Now therefore, my so-called restaurant business have to be rejigged up, and the model has to be changed. Get into the food business itself, but rejuggle ourselves to go into another model. Perhaps there is a method in the madness there. So, ladies and gentlemen, the first aspect we need to think, is there a market, is there a customer, and can I still sell? That's number one. And not in order of priority, but I'll try to tell us businessmen what are the 5 things we need to think of for ourselves so that we can reinvent ourselves. The second is that we sell, and if you go a little backwards, we need to produce, we need to manufacture. If we don't produce, we don't manufacture something, we don't do something, no one buys something. So we do value addition. Now, are we doing the value addition the right way? Is my technology correct? Now, whenever the word technology comes in, many a times we think, oh, it's high tech, I'm an MSME, I don't have technology. Ladies and gentlemen, of course you have a technology. You do something special. That's why if when you buy something for 100, you can sell for 150. So someone is going to give you that 50 rupees extra because because you are doing something. You are doing value addition. This value addition, ladies and gentlemen, is going to significantly change again. The method, because of social distancing, maybe our factories have to be much more opened up. We may not be able to employ all the people we had because we have to reduce our cost. The cost reduction may need taking advantage of some second-hand technology. Just because it's technology second-hand doesn't mean the technology outdated. It's just that my cost is less. So please look at the way you are producing, whether it's service or goods. Look at de novo, the way we are doing, so that we are cost competitive. Ladies and gentlemen, one good news is India is likely to be the sourcing hub of the world. China will no longer be trusted. Even every child in the world knows that the COVID has come from that country. And therefore, will the food products, will the products of all what the Chinese people were supplying, will it continue? I doubt very much. And that's an opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, we the MSME must capture. The second is technology or manufacturing or production. The third is procurement. We first sell, that's our first thinking. In order to sell, we need to make it. And in order to make it, we need to procure something. For instance, let's say you are a plastic manufacturer and you make plastic, you manufacture, but then you have to procure your resin, you have to procure a raw material. From where do you procure? In this procurement, there are earlier, perhaps many of us, the MSME sector, used to procure from China. Please look at the Chinese source of procurement of your business model de novo. This is the risk management we have to think of. Perhaps Chinese sources, in my view, will not be the same as it used to be earlier. I think there is no voice I can see.
Yes, Ravi, what happened?
Is there no voice? I got a message saying there is no voice. Okay, because there is a message which says there is no voice. Hello. Okay, so the third one is procurement. Kindly look at the procurement, the way you are procuring, from where you are procuring, which country you are procuring from, what is the source, are there multiple sourcing suppliers. Please do not depend upon one supply source. Please try to de-risk yourself from Chinese sources. Many MSMEs depend on Chinese sources. We upgrade a little bit or we trade on the Chinese products. I would request all of you to look at this again, because there is going to be some problem. Number 4 is money. Now, perhaps money should have come number 1, but I am taking number 4, because the whole world has no money. Nobody has money. And that's the biggest problem. My submission to you is that rather than complaining, rather than thinking government has to give us everything, I think they can still not hear. Cannot hear anything the panelist is saying, that the panel is saying. So there is no voice, sir. Mahesh bhai?
Mahesh, can you rectify this matter?
Sir, we
cannot hear anything. I think
very properly, sir.
The problem is that they have to proper network. They have to refresh again.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, could you refresh again if you don't mind? I do understand there is a problem. Okay, let me carry on. I'll try to be brief and maybe do a question answer later on. So money, ladies and gentlemen, please look at a business concept where you are going to sell for cash, easy to say of course, but buy on credit. Buy on credit, sell on cash, which means my suggestion is contract the working capital cycle. You cannot keep the material and receivables for months together. There is no possibility of doing that. Your business model has to be shrink working capital, shrink fund requirement in your business. Whether banks are going to give funding, whether banks will fund, that's another matter altogether. I'm not going to discuss it. There are a lot of opportunities. But what about changing our business model in a way that we need less cash deployment to do our business? And the fifth one is leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, our business is as good as ourselves. It is we, the owners, we, the entrepreneurs, we, the managers, will have to motivate our people. First, motivate ourselves. First, motivate ourselves that yes, we have a business model which works very well and we'll be able to do it for you. And the second is to motivate others. If everyone gets demotivated, nothing works. And therefore, and again, as I'm saying, the world is not going to end. There's still 7.5 billion population. India has a 1.35 billion population. All of us would need to eat and drink and make merry. It is just a question of shifting our business model from whatever we were doing to something else to meet the new changing world. I know there is a voice problem, therefore I will quickly give 5 suggestions of businesses where perhaps we can all look at. Most of it you know. The first business sector where we should do quite well is pharmaceutical. Anything to do with, not pharmaceutical, I'm sorry, health. Anything to do with health is something please look at. A big opportunity is healthcare center. India, we always think about hospitals, but India does not have healthcare center. Healthcare center is somewhere lower than hospital, cheaper cost to set up, and that is something MSME should look at. Healthcare center, please, ladies and gentlemen, look at. Food. Food is the second sector. Huge opportunity. Thank you. Huge opportunity. So that's something. Food is a lot of food exports will take place. Packaged food from China will perhaps end. It's not, unlikely to take place. MSME sector should be able to take advantage. Third is education. Ladies and gentlemen, as the whole concept of webinar today, it has changed, it has a paradigm change, the way we are speaking to each other, sharing each other's knowledge. Education is a huge opportunity for India to help the world. These are the 3 hardcore stuff. 2 soft stuffs. One is entertainment. The entertainment through internet is a huge opportunity for every one of us. Please look at that because you can sit at home and do. And the last one, the 5th one, perhaps we are not talking of as much, is some of us are quite intelligent, I'm sure. Some of us are quite young. Could you look at artificial intelligence? Could you look at big data and blockchain technology? The future in the world is going to be blockchain. I'm not going to explain what blockchain is because that's a little, perhaps take 3-4 minutes. But ladies and gentlemen, artificial intelligence, big data and blockchain is a huge opportunity. India will be the biggest source of this technology. And therefore, and it's all in the upswing. We are still at the baby level, and that's an opportunity I think we should take over. So my final submission is, ladies and gentlemen, don't think the world has come to an end. There's still an opportunity. Rejig yourself, reinvent yourself, and just look at the way you market, what to sell, what to make, how you source, from where the money comes from, and you yourself should be motivated enough that we will provide the leadership to make a new business opportunity for all of us. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Robin. Very interesting and very, can say advisable some of the points. You have highlighted 3 points. One is particularly money, like a finance. Second, technology. And third is a unique opportunity. As you said that somehow there are plenty of opportunities are there, and which is not particularly related to local, but is global. There is a huge opportunity. We have to understand that which segment. You have mentioned 5 sectors. In 5 sectors, most of the entrepreneurs from India is looking more particularly the local business. But I suggest this is a good opportunity to identify the global market. I know so many entrepreneurs are manufacturing quality product, but they are facing a difficulty to get the proper emerging business opportunity. So here is the chamber. Chamber will be giving you opportunity, support, guidance. Of course, government support will be there. But currently, the major issue is when the lockdown will be over, when we will start our business, how we will retain our labors, how we will get our trade receivables, and most importantly, how the bank will support me to to rectify or refix my issues with the banking sector. Friends, this is a very interesting situation going on because most of the entrepreneurs are very, very in difficult situation. They are thinking that whether I will continue my business, whether I'll close my business, or whether I will think about starting instead of manufacturing, starting a consultancy. I want to inform my friends from the manufacturing service and see, this is a challenging time. This time is giving you lesson. This time is giving you, education. And of course, as a honorable Prime Minister said, जान है तो जहान है. तो हम जब तक घर पर बैठ के हमारे फ्यूचर के लिए सोचते हैं, उस तरह से हमारे बिजनेस को एम्पावर करने के लिए हम कैसा काम करेंगे, क्या करेंगे, प्लानिंग करने के लिए आपको एक टाइम मिल गया है. You got a precious time to think about your future. Mostly SME sector सुबह से लेके शाम तक चलेगा करते रहते काम. So this is a good time to think. And of course, after 3rd May, I don't know, there is a prediction that, particularly whether we will be continue our business from 3rd or lockdown will be extended in some area. Let's see what government is taking. But mostly the issue is now when we will start a business, how we'll start a business, how we will get the support, whether government is going to support us to pay the salary to my workers, whether government is going to support me to identify new market, and whether a government is going to support me to enhance my business activity. Friends, particularly a lot of entrepreneurs in the manufacturing industry, they are looking for export orders. They are looking for support and guidance mainly for identifying the new market. With this word, I would like to invite the Mihir Shah to say a few words on particularly what are the issues and problems faced by the SME sector and how SME sector will try to enhance their business activity not only at the local but at global level. Mihir.
Thank you, sir. Very good afternoon to everyone. I am very happy and delighted to be amongst very, very stalwarts of speakers and addressing over 100 of you participants. Thank you so much, Mr. Salunkhe, for inviting me again, and really delighted to provide this inputs. Well, friends, I would be talking on respect to export and exporters. There's no secret that the COVID-19 is something which is non-thought of, non-planned. There is no plan A, B, C, D by anybody to fight this pandemic. Everybody is learning, everybody is coming up with the solutions as they deem fit. And with SME as a sector, we have a little bit more challenges because of our limited resources and limited access of various aspects. As far as exporters are concerned, there is a challenge slightly more to look at. The challenge is not only internal. It's not about when will India's lockdown get completed, when will India open up. It is also about when will the international markets business open up. When will my US market open? When will Europe be normal? When will Middle East be normal? When the pattern of people traveling increase? When the consumption will increase? So that's a challenge which we are facing as an exporters, not only just domestic challenges, not only when my manufacturing, when the laborers will come back, when the lockdown will get complete, when will I come back to my optimum capacity. But challenges are plenty. Now, in this challenging period, obviously as an exporter, I need to sit back and decide on certain parameters of the product selection, which are the products which I'm now going to offer, because we are now looking at a situation which is called as pre-COVID and post-COVID. You will not be in a position to do the same product range post-COVID or after COVID, that is called as, which you were able to doing pre-COVID or before COVID. So you'll have to reassess your situations of your products which you're offering to exporters, to your foreign buyers as an exporter. You're also going to reassess the certain requirements of the market, whether you are focused on US or Middle East. Do you want to move to Europe or Asian markets, or do you want to look at the Latin American markets? So you will have to refocus and re-energize your strategies to which markets are you addressing your now products after COVID. And this exercise is something which you are able to do now when during lockdown, maybe within your group, maybe within a meeting, having online virtually. You can't go and meet everybody, but the team can sit across and do this research, do this understanding of new markets, new product requirement, which will happen, which will be required post-COVID within few months from now. And that's going to be the demand for your products in near future. Long term, we may come back to the regular situations, but at the moment, immediately after the lockdowns are over, once we are almost out of pandemic across the world, we are looking at something different, something new, and norms are going to change. Social distancing is going to be the norms of the day, irrespective whether we are talking about lockdown being removed tomorrow, day after, 10 days, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months. Social distancing is going to remain for a long, long time. Hand sanitization of our workplace, hygiene is going to be a big norm in a regular day-to-day life. So look at that as an option, as an export, as a product. Now, saying so that, you as an exporter have to think about all of these, there is also something which the government has to support you with. The support has to come from government in form of supporting you in compliance. Support has to come in from the government in terms of assisting you in certain benefits or incentives, as we call it as. And we are looking at various options. To all the credit to the government that they have already announced for exporters at least required much relief in terms of processes and compliance in terms of procedures already. I would let me quickly share some a presentation with you guys so that you are aware of what we are discussing. So just to give you an update, that Department of Commerce, which governs the foreign trade policy and the most export businesses, has already announced, customs have already announced, GST has already announced certain changes. I will not take GST. We have a very learned senior speaker, Mr. Sailesh Bhai, who's going to talk about GST, and I'm dying to hear him. So talking about DGFT, customs, talking about DG shipping, RBI, those have already taken proactive steps. So as an exporter, at one hand, you are looking to develop new products and new markets. At one hand, you are trying to look at your manufacturing setup revival. You can also look at the procedural and compliance advantages which the department has already come and given to you. So if you look at DGFT, which overall controls the foreign trade, we had a policy for 5 years period. So we have a policy for 15-20. The policy was to expire on 31st of March 2020. And from 2020, that is April 1st, for next 5 years, we were supposed to have a new policy. Current situation not being conducive for new policy, the existing policy as it is has been continued for one full financial year. So until 31st of March 2021, we have the existing policy continued with all its provisions and all its process. So the procedures, the documentation, you are already well versed of. You're doing this for the last 5 years. So that's continued. So you have a continuity in your business. You don't have to worry about something new to be learned with. There are various schemes which have been continued. The most talked about for exporter was MEIS scheme, the Merchandise Export from India scheme. Obviously, it has been continued as far as the current period is concerned. Just a couple of informations so that there's a clarity and people don't keep on thinking about having a wrong notion. The 2% additional MEIS, which was introduced in October of 2017, has already been terminated in December 31st. This notification was already issued on 7th of December, and by 31st of December, this was terminated. This has nothing to do with COVID. This was already announced that from 1st of January 2020, the additional 2% is not going to be available with. The MEIS on exports of apparels, garments, and made-ups, which come under Chapter 61, 62, 63, that has been stopped with effect from 7th of March 2019. And in replacement, there is a new scheme called as ROSCTL. The ROSCTL is a replacement of an ROSL scheme, which Ministry of Textile had come up with, and that is the scheme which we're going to come up. You would be aware of that in WTO, US has objected on the scheme of MEIS, that this is non-compliant to WTO requirements, and India has agreed, or India has accepted internally. Obviously, we are challenging that decision of WTO, but internally we have accepted, and we are looking at a changeover from MEIS scheme to a different scheme called as RODTEP, rebate of duties on export products, duties and taxes on export products. So RODTEP is going to be rolled out, and what has now been decided that the MEIS scheme is going to be there until 31st of December 2020. So until 31st of December 2020, you will have the MEI scheme as it was continued from 1st of January 2020. And prior to 31st of December 2020, almost prior to that or just about that, you will have the new ROTTEP rates coming out for various HSN core products. So the MEIS will switch to ROTTEP and the procedures will be defined. Until the ROTTEP rates are announced, until the ROTTEP rates are identified, MEIS will be continued. So if for any reason ROTTEP rates, let's say for an engineering item that's announced on 1st of June, MEIS for that HSN products will be switched over to ROTTEP. ROTTEP, how the procedure will be, what will you get, how will the incentive come, they're yet to get the updates or the department is yet to announce the procedures. As and when they'll announce, we will keep you updated about it. So until 31st of December, you may overall see scenario where your MEIS is going to continue. For service exports, the SEIS scheme which is available to you, that has been extended. The application period has been extended until 31st of December for the financial year of 18-19. So all those service providers who were wanting to file their application for 18-19, the last date of application without late cut was 31st of March. Now that has been extended till 31st of December. So until 31st of December, if you apply, there will be no late cut. For SEIS on services rendered in 1920, the list of services is going to be announced separately and notified by Appendix 3X. And for 2021, department or DGFT is going to take a call whether the SEIS will be given or they want to withdraw the scheme. Why I'm giving you this information is so that you can plan. The reason we are trying to give this information and to give you clarity is that as an SME, as a goods or service exporter, you can plan well in advance and be aware of that there are certain procedural and compliance advantages or processes which have been relaxed and you can take advantage of this. Many of SMEs are already a 1-star or 2-star export house status holder certificate, having status holder certificate. This certificate has a validity of 5 years and that 5 years may expire anytime in, let's say, April, May or June, or maybe even November, December. Or it is expiring on 31st of March, whatever be the date. The government has changed the norm to say that the certificate which you have is valid for 5 years or until 31st of March 2021, whichever is later. Just yesterday, I got a message from one of our clients which saying, sir, my status holder certificate is going to expire on May 25th. I said, don't worry, because now your validity is up to 31st of March 2021. You will enjoy all the benefits because it is whichever is later. Hence, all those who have status holder certificates, your all benefits are assured to you until next 1 year. So be assured, be assured of that without any worry. A lot of you are already availing the advanced authorization scheme where you are importing raw material without any duty. Under the scheme, the IGST and the compensation cess was exempted until 31st of March. GST Council has notified or extended it until 31st of March 2021. DGFT and Customs have already notified the same as well. Now, talking about advanced authorizations, you have various things in the authorization. You have the norms fixation, you have the import requirement, and you have to export, or you have an obligation to export. A very clear thumb rule which has been announced and which has been given to all of you as an exporter is, if your validity of the license, if your export obligation, either of these is within the period of 1st February to 31st of July. Mind you, 1st February 2020 to 31st of July 2020, automatically it is extended for a period of 6 months. You do not have to apply to department. You do not have to go for any authorization endorsement. You do not have to pay any fees. It is suo moto, automatically extended for 6 months. In fact, about yesterday or day before yesterday, we've got a confirmation from the customs as well. The CBIC has confirmed that on the system, because this is notified, but even on the software side, the system side, you have to get this update, which has been done. So all your licenses where the import validity was expiring either from February 2020 or till 31st of July, you've already got 6 months extension. And after 6 months, which is the extension under this. Whatever policy provides you an extension further, in case, you can still go for it. So if you have an export obligation, your export obligation is already extended for 6 months. After that, if you still want to extend it, the normal procedure by paying necessary composition fee or a penalty or a charge can be still pursued. So this is not your period extended from the policy. This is an additional period given to you. And that's a 6 months period. And not only for the so-called lockdown period, it is from February 1st till the 31st of July 2020. So that's something which is very, very interesting. If you are, we were talking about the textile industry who have now been given under, instead of MEIS, a scheme called ROSCTL. So ROSCTL was to be filed until 31st of June 2020. That period is also extended up to 31st of December. A scheme called as DFIA is available to certain class of people who want to, instead of buying raw material, transfer that license. Again, the validity has been extended for 6 months. The whole thing you need to understand in a nutshell is 6 months extension has been given for most of the schemes which is available to you. EPCG, very important. Capital goods, again, the IGST compensation cess, which was valid till 31st of March 2020, straight away it has been extended till 31st of March 2021 as per the GST Council update. So DGFT and Customs have already taken the notification of it. Under EPCG, you have a couple of things again. You have the installation certificate where you have to install the machine, where you have to fulfill your export obligation in 4 years period, which is the first block, and then in the second block of 5th and the 6th year. Again, if your period is between 1st February to 31st of July, you are eligible for a 6 month extension. That means you are already given that extension for next 6 months. So whether it is installation certificate period, whether it is your first block extension or your export obligation, everything has been extended for 6 months. In fact, if your period is not between February to July, but you have missed on certain compliance procedure, whether it is a installation certificate, whether it is a blockwise, there is a notification where you were allowed a condonation, meaning without any penalty, without any damage, you were allowed to submit this. That condonation was available till 31st of March. Now it is extended till 31st of March 2021. So by a public notice number 1, they have extended this condonation of blockwise or EO. If you have done this for your old licenses, you are very clearly available or benefited to use this benefit of condonation and take the advantage of your submission or delay or procedural lapse for next 1 year. In case if you are an EOU, again the exemption of IGST and compensation cess is available to you for another 1 year. So if you see, the advantage is passed on from 6 months to 1 year on in most cases. For exporters of agriculture products, you had a scheme called TMA, Transport and Marketing Assistance. This is a scheme where you have to apply on a quarterly basis, and the application period is that for the quarter application, you have to apply it in next 1 year. So that 1 year would fall on 31st of March 2020 or on 30th of June 2020. This period has been extended up to 30th of September 2020. So for the quarter of 31st March 2019, that is Jan-Feb-March 2019 quarter and April-May-June 19 quarter, your application can be done until 30th of September 2020. So that's another 6 months of extension. You would aware that for all these incentives, you require an Export Promotion Council, that is an EPC's membership called as the RCMC. The RCMC is typically valid for 1 financial year. So every financial year, that is the first week of April, you will have to renew by making the payment. We are in a lockdown situation, very difficult to probably make a payment, send the documents, get it registered. Though most councils have done it online, so you can do that. However, department has relaxed the norm by saying that in case if you are not having an RCMC, they will not insist for the same valid RCMC for the current financial year until 30th of September. So any of your applications, any of your submissions are going be without the RCMC for this period, that is from 1st of April till 30th of September. Having an old RCMC is valid. They will not be insisting you to get a valid renewed RCMC. Once the lockdown is over, you can go and renew it. Let me reiterate, most of the councils have moved on to an online-based RCMC system. So ideally, you are even today in a position to apply for the renewal and get it renewed. For steel industry, there's this specific requirement. If you import certain products under Chapter 72, 73, and 86, you are required to register at least 15 days prior to your import and in 60 days, which is the validity. So 15 days prior and 60 days after, it is 75 days is the validity of a SIM certificate, which is an import permit kind of a thing. You have to register. It's not a kind of permit, but the registration is important or mandatory. Now that, if you have applied for until 31st of March 2020, the validity instead of 75 days, 15 days prior and 60 days after, instead of validity being 75 days, the validity is of 135 days. So in case if your import has not come, it is getting delayed, you are unable to clear it, the vessel is not calling back to India or Indian ports, you don't have to worry because your SIMs, for which there's a fee which is being paid, it is not going to go into waste. It is still valid for 135 days from the date of issue for the ones which have been issued up to 31st of March 2020. Many of you are exporting and importing goods under a free trade agreement, and you are required to submit certain certificate of origin. For Europe, there is a REX registration which is required, which requires that one time you have to register documents to the nodal agency, which is DGFT. That manual submission has been done away with. You can do an electronic submission. For certificate of origin under a specific free trade agreements, we had already had three agreements which were completely online and by the DGFT portal called coo.dgft.gov.in. Now we have increased that list from 7th of April to another 6 with these partner countries. So for all these partner countries and for all these 6 free trade agreements, you are required to apply it online and it will be issued online. So you don't have to worry about getting a physical certificate of origin. The preferential certificate of origin is going to be available to you straight away online without any hassles. So this is what the DGFT covers it. Looking at customs. Customs has also already announced certain measures. Number one, in case if you are importing either raw material or your finished goods, you are required to file a bill of entry within a stipulated time. Otherwise, you are liable to pay penalty of ₹5,000 for first 3 days and then 10,000 until you file your bill of entry. This late fee has been waived off. So from 20th March 2020, if you have any imports coming, late fee has been waived off. You do not pay any late fee. Exporters or importers who are required to submit bonds in terms of clearance of cargo. This requirement of bond has been waived off. It can be cleared under a declaration and undertaking with specific documentation and procedures to be sent via email. No required personal thing, but there's a procedure laid down and that has been extended until the 15th of May. So until 15th of May, whether you have an import or export where you're required to submit bonds, you are not required to submit bonds. You are able to do so with an undertaking via this notification. Clearance of import containers where you require the out of charge and gate pass, which was a process which was manually driven. A document has to be moved, papers have to be moved from one place to another. That has been completely done online. From 15th of April, we have completely online e-gate pass and out of charge mechanism. The PDF file comes on your email, on your CHS email with a barcode. So the gatekeeper at the gate office the CFS has to just scan those barcodes and the out of charge and the goods can be released from the CFSs and gate officers can release it just on a scanned document rather than having any physical documents. That has already been implemented from 15th of April. The customs knowing the liquidity, and I can vouch this because I know the MSMEs have a lot of refunds stuck with various export ports in terms of drawback, IGST refunds, and various other schemes. Now, for the drawback and IGST refund, the customs has already initiated a disposal drive whereby refunds have been released on a regular basis. We had an update from customs saying that they had released a good amount of refund very recently from all the ports. So most of your refunds, whether it is in form of drawback or IGST, has been released and they are planning to come down to a zero pendency level by 30th of April. So most of your liquidity issues will be resolved or trying to be resolved through this refund drive. For people who are wanting to import certain items, we know the situation of COVID and pandemic is rising. In case if you want to import any of these items, namely ventilators, face masks, mind you guys, import and not export. This is import. Import of ventilators, face masks, surgical masks, PPE equipment, COVID kits, or any raw material related to that, you will be allowed to import without any custom duty and health cess. So there is nil. There's an exemption on custom duty and health cess, especially for these items, just to encourage this. The implementation point, again, process driven, again, procedural aspects. So where you are storing your goods in a bonded warehouse and you have to seal it with an e-seal, the process has been extended, which was due on 31st of March. It has been extended till 30th of June. So from 30th of June, e-seal will apply. This has been the talk of the town, especially with exporters and importers, where DG Shipping has announced certain waiver. The waiver were for non-detention container charges at the ports and by the shipping line for the damage and the various other charges because of non-collection of the cargo or the container. Now, DG Shipping originally announced this by way of an order dated 29th of March, order number 7, where they said you will not, the shipping lines as well as the port authorities, the CFS, the entire, the supply chain guys would not charge you detention and other things by until the lockdown period that was from 22nd to 14th. There is a subsequent order number 11 dated 22nd of April where this period has been extended from 22nd of March to 3rd of May, and similarly for the ground rent, damage, up from 15th of April till 3rd of May. So the order puts up the onus on the ports, the custodians, the CFS, the shipping lines to not to charge any damage, any loading, unloading charges, any storage charges beyond the free period, which you get generally 3 days, 7 days, 10 days, beyond that free period for the date 15th April to 3rd May. Yes, I am aware that there is a dispute between the shipping lines, CFS not accepting this norm. I assume that there is cognizance taken at various authority level, including the government level, and I'm sure we can expect some update from the government from that aspect. However, at the moment, these are the only orders which have been placed. So, yes, CFS, the port authorities or shipping line may not agree to you at this point of time, but we are expecting some update or some order from the government further to this respect. Last couple of points is in terms of payments. So RBI plays an important role, and you are obviously required as an exporter to make sure that you clear your compliances or requirements of the payments. You have to bring in foreign exchange. You are obligated to do that. Now, obviously, in the COVID situation, not only the export which has happened now or which will happen in future, your past export payments are getting stuck. So RBI has announced that the time period which you are allowed to bring in foreign exchange, that was 9 months. Within 9 months, you're supposed to bring in the foreign exchange. Now, for exports made up to 31st of July, please understand the wordings here. And this is very, very important because that's the benefit as an exporter you get. Up to 31st of July, any exports, whether it is in the lockdown period or prior to lockdown period, prior to probably 7 months, 6 months, now your period to bring in the realization is, instead of 9 months, is 15 months from the date of export. So from the date of export, the 15 months period within which you can bring in your foreign exchange, and that is how you can assist your foreign buyer, a good buyer, you may give him some more extension of credit and then get the money so that you save your buyer as well as you are fully compliant with the RBI norms. Lastly, we have an agency called ECGC, which is a credit insurance company, which takes care of your insurance. Now, when you have taken an export insurance against your foreign buyer, there would be certain compliance to be done. Whether it is in form of your returns, whether it is in form of applications, submissions of everything, that period has been extended because of the lockdown until 31st of May. If you have to make, there was some default by the buyer and you have to make a claim, the deadline is that you have to do it within a month or so, but because of the lockdown, you are not able to do. The time is extended up to June 2020. If you had a specific shipment policy, so policies are taken, you have taken an insurance, and for whatever reason, the export is not happening, the policy is for a particular period. That period, if it is expiring in March, it is automatically extended up to June 2020. So this is something which is already being done. Now, that's exactly why I wanted to bring out this presentation and give you an update that while we are focusing on various aspects of how to cope up, how to bring back ourselves, how to restart our thing, we already have in place many of the provisions of policy procedures already given to you. Yes, they may be requiring some more. There are some more few challenges. I'm aware of certain GST issues, which I'm waiting for Mr. Sheth to take it further. But the things which are already available, as an exporter, we should be aware so that we can plan and strategize. When you are aware that you have a 6 months extension period, you can focus on your export market. You can focus on reviving your manufacturing and rather than focusing on compliance, because you know you have an extension of 6 months. So with this, I would hand it back to Mr. Salunkhe. Friends, all those who wanted a presentation, the link is available to you on the slide, which is right on the top. And obviously, SME Chamber will share the presentation with you guys. Thank you so once again. I hand it over to Mr. Salunkhe.
Thank you, Mihir. Thank you for your very, very important and useful information, particularly for the perspective of the entrepreneurs, those are into exports. This is very interesting because shipping and transportation, as well as the DGFT, and how the Commerce Ministry is supporting SME entrepreneurs, particularly for export and particularly for the, to utilize the schemes and incentives available with the Ministry of Commerce and DGFT. Friends, when Mihir was talking and Mr. Banerjee was talking, I just got a message from one of my friends that 2.32 lakh crore worth MSMEs loans are going to be, at the risk and turning bad. It looks like becoming NPA. 2.32 lakh crore loan taken by MSME entrepreneurs or enterprises will be becoming bad. It will be becoming an NPA. So this is very interesting, steps for the government, particularly for banks, how they will be supporting our entrepreneurs, how they want to give the hand-holding during this, difficult situation. Today, rather, Mr. Mishra from CGM SBI supposed to join, but some technical reason he couldn't make it. But I will try to, invite him at the end of our webinar, particularly because a lot of entrepreneurs are having, doubts and issues related to banking sector, because government is announcing, RBI is announcing some relief, but banks are not given the mandatory directions. Banks should come with a mandatory direction that yes, we want to support MSME sector to retain their business, continue their business, and then of course to create confidence among them, because without bank, SME will not grow, and without SME, India will not grow. Prime Minister said that they want to achieve the $5 trillion economy. How they will do without SMEs? So with this word, I want to suggest and I want to request the bankers to support the entrepreneurs, support the MSMEs. Those are looking for timely support and timely need. So we will try to invite Mr. Mishra at the end of the webinar. Meanwhile, I would like to invite Mr. Lele to share his thoughts on particularly for the corporate affairs. Most of the SMEs are facing big problem, but somehow the corporate affairs given some relief. So that relief, whatever the relief given by the corporate affairs ministry, and particularly from the register of companies, what will be the steps, what will be the suggestions given by them. So Mr. Lele, you can take forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Chandrakant sir. It's a pleasure coming to the SME platform and addressing the SME members of our organization. Thanks my co-panelists for already started giving a lot of inputs to the SMEs, and I will also play my role in the entire process. I have some points to discuss about 10 to 12 slides I have to share with you. which in this process, I would like to share that what could be the strategies the business could adopt for the purpose of combating COVID. I'm purposely using the word combat because this is a fight, this is a combat, and the entire India is fighting. So I'm just putting my presentation on. This is visible?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes,
Go
sir.
ahead.
Yes,
Hello?
sir.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. It is visible, sir. Lele, sir,
Okay.
go ahead.
And I am also audible?
Yes, sir. You are perfectly audible, and the presentation is fine.
Okay, thank you. So this is about the challenges and opportunity today's webinar. I will be talking on the business strategies combat COVID-19. Yes, friends, India is fighting back, and we are looking forward to 3rd May to be the D-Day, where the expectation all around that we'll come back to the business, we'll come back to our regular routines, but still fingers are crossed. There are certain areas where the pandemic is growing. There are certain areas where it is under control. My salute to all policemen, all medical staff, all doctors, and everybody who is leading this fight from the front and trying to achieve 3rd May to be the D-Day. So let us look forward to this. This is lockdown 2. In the lockdown 2, there are certain positive improvements have happened. The testing ratio, India's testing ratio has fallen down. Testing ratio is test to positive ratio. Multiplication period is also somewhere constant to 7. So the multiplication is happening 7, barring certain cities like Pune and Mumbai. The multiplication is under control. There is an effective channelization of machinery to the COVID clock. There are ample amount of mobilization of resources has also happened. Availability of foods and essentials is also to the great extent it is now available now. The reasonable success in implementation of social distancing and voluntary home quarantine. Also, there is an introduction of institutional quarantine. Today's morning news is that Pune, they are going to institutionally quarantine about 70,000 people, 70,000 people in the institutional areas. And we would like to see that how this is going to control the pandemic. There is an improvement in testing facilities. Entire India has been mapped into 3 zones. That is the orange zone, green zone, and the red zone. There are attempts to do the phase-wise opening of businesses in the green zone and orange zones. Government has also now started showing certain concerns for the businesses and its survivals post-COVID. This is a very, very good sign for all of us. What is the current business scenario? It's a complete stoppage. Everybody knows, everybody is suffering. The government has brought various concessions. Some of has already been discussed by Mihir. There are basically the extensions are about the dates. There are waivers on additional fees and ease of compliances. There are handful concessions are also made around the banking and finance. No, not directly the monetary benefits has been extended or any scheme has been introduced, but certain banking and finance concessions has been given. The protection to the temporary workers and their wages has been provided. I'll discuss this later on, how this is affecting on the businesses. Protection of the tenants, deferment of rent payments. I will also talk what is going to happen about the commercial rents and the commercial tenancies. There are serious recovery issues since mid-March, and I think people are certainly getting their recoveries and the entire cash flow. There is an acute shortage of working capital. As Salunkhe sir had just pointed out, the bankers needs to be aggressive in their lending. Bankers are not lending to the extent, like say, certain soft loans are also required to be provided to enable the businesses to survive. Forget about the growth, but the survival of the business is the most important factor in the current scenario. There is certain areas which have been opened, which has been allowed to conduct the businesses, but certain issues are there, like say there is non-availability of public transport, other basic infrastructure is also not available. Remigration of workers, so those workers who have already moved out of the take them back and put them into work. And why this is important, because over the years these workers have been trained by the businessmen and the industries, and it is equally difficult for the industry to start with new workers coming in and doing the same quality of the activity, and therefore remigration of workers is very, very important. On the other hand, I have heard the news that those workers which has been locked down in the state of Maharashtra, they are likely to be taken out of Maharashtra for the purpose of convenience. But I don't understand how this move will help to the businesses in the state of Maharashtra, and how this will help to the migrated workers, because if suppose there is a worker from Bihar who has been locked down in the state of Maharashtra and who is likely to travel to the Bihar state, whether Bihar state will allow them to come in, or they will keep them into the 14-15 days isolation. That is also a challenge we need to see. Requirement of there is a stringent requirement businesses has to comply if they want to commence the business. That is the stay and food facilities to be provided to the workers. Once the workers have been traveled to the place of business, they are not allowed to again come back to their residential places. So that all these arrangements, the SMEs are finding, particularly the SMEs are finding it difficult to comply with these conditions. Business owners found themselves that they are at the risk on the workers' health and safety, because if anything, if the business has commenced, the workers are deployed, and if anything happens to them, the business owner, being the employer and the occupier of the factory, would be directly responsible and would be held responsible. There is an uncertainty about lifting of lockdown for orange and red zones. We don't know when that is going to happen. There is a governing and how this entire story is to be controlled by the government. There are two important acts, which is one, Epidemic Disease Act 1897, which when there was a plague, and particularly in Pune, this particular act was introduced first time by the English people, and there is a Safekar Bandhu case also connected with this. So many of us know this. So this particular act has now been implemented. This enables the government to take suitable measures and prescribe suitable regulations to control the epidemic. Disobedience of this particular act will lead to punishment of imprisonment and fine under Section 188 of the Indian Penal Code. There is another act, Disaster Management Act 2015. This act provides for the framework for effective management of disasters. It authorizes the government to effectively implement all machineries and resources to control and manage diseases. Currently, the entire government directions are issued under the Disaster Management Act, and how far they are effective, that we'll see. There is a facilitation, couple of facilitations has already been discussed by Mihir. So there are RBI directives to the bank, ease of repayment of loans, burden is postponed. So for up to June, the facility has been provided that repayment could be scheduled after June. So burden is postponed. It is not. There is no levy or no concession has been granted. However, nothing comes free, because interest is going to multiply even for these 3 months. Deferment of recovery of interest and loan installment, and no NPA categorization. This is very, very important. Even if you are falling under a NPA categorization because of 3 months non-payment, that is not going to happen. Your credit rating is likely to be intact, and that is not going to affect even if you don't pay the loan installment for 3 months. Ease of corporate compliances, couple of corporate compliances has been, ease has been announced, like say filing of GST returns, due dates are extended. There is the Ministry of Corporate Affairs who has announced two schemes. One is for the companies and one is for the LLP. They are popularly known as Fresh Start schemes. Basically helpful to the industries and the businesses which have not filed their documents. There is a delay in filing the documents and the compliances, and those documents could be filed now with these additional fees. Even if there is a delay between the period from the February to June, we can take the benefit under this scheme. This scheme is live up to September, and we can file the documents, forms and returns under this particular scheme under LLP and the company, and only the normal filing fees will be applicable. The additional fees and penalty won't be charged. Plus, there is a process that the directors and the promoters and the LLPs and the companies and the partners would get immunity from the compliances. That is, no penal provision would be applicable. That kind of a immunity would be available. Insolvency trigger point increase to dues of ₹1 crore. Very rightly, this move has been taken to avoid the small litigations. And this is a temporary measure. This is not a permanent this thing. So once the pandemic situation is over, we are back to the businesses. The insolvency trigger point would be come down to the original point of ₹1 lakh. And the timelines, the lockdown period would be excluded from the timelines. So those cases which are in the process, the timeline, the lockdown period won't be considered. There is a relaxation of conditions to have resident director from Indian companies. This relaxation has been provided. Board meetings, relaxation numbers has been provided. Relaxation in various compliances, regulations by SEBI for listed entities, and even online compliances, online filing is permitted. Holding of AGM through VC is permitted. CSR has given a clarification that donation to PM Care Fund would be eligible CSR activity. The CARO applicability, which was supposed to be from the 1920 financial year, now would be applicable from 2021 financial year. So after completion of, after closure of financial year 2021, the CARO would be applicable. So this is really ease for the professionals and for the businesses. There is a reduction in penal interest for delay in deposits, and TDS and TCS, ETC has been provided. Time period of 15 months is granted for realization of export proceed without the approval. Extension of time granted for deposit of employees related dues to the government. There are various schemes which have been announced. Majority of business licenses expiry period is extended, so it has been already intimated by Mihir that between the period of February, if your license was expiring, it gets automatic renewal. FEMA, there's FDI and acquisition of stake by transfer of entity. This is very, very important amendment which has happened. There were attempts from the neighboring countries to take over the businesses at say very cheap price because of this pandemic situation, and in order to control this particular situation and to protect the Indian businesses, this process has been introduced where any investment from the countries sharing the borders of India requires the government approval. And earlier it was under automatic route, but this is very, very welcome move taken by the government of India. What will happen to the contracts and arrangements? Usually the contracts have the force majeure clause where the act of God has been provided that if any situation which is beyond the control of the parties leads to a delay in complying the promises which have been provided in the contracts and the agreements, then penalties and obligations associated with won't be applicable. But in force majeure clause, this particular pandemic and epidemic situations were never covered because that was never thought that this is going to happen in the world. So just go back and check your force majeure clauses and see what exactly has been provided. If that particular situation, if the current situation is covered under the force majeure clause, then to the extent you have got a relief, then I think the party to the contract cannot sue you or cannot claim any penalties or fine associated with, because there is of course going to be the delay in suppliers and delay in committing the contractual obligations. But if this particular clause is not there, then better you start negotiating and discuss with the parties and try to get some relief for this particular period. The commercial property rent and leasehold agreements also need to see is there any waiver clause or otherwise request the landlords to grant some waiver or deferment in payment of rents and lease amounts. The force majeure clause, if it is there, then to that extent that will help you in the entire process. Payment of salaries and wages. There is one direction which has been provided by the Ministry of Labour and Employment, Government of India. There is an advisory that during the lockdown, all employees to extend their coordination and not to terminate their employments, and leave taken by the workers to be considered. Leave taken by workers to be considered as on duty and no wage deduction to happen. Further advisory to make wage payments on due date at the workplace, and then MCA, while giving the clarification on the CSR, stated that it is a moral obligation of the employers to pay the salaries and wages of the employees. So in nutshell, there is a forceful obligation put in by the government on the employers, saying that you are required to pay the dues of the workers. You cannot terminate the contractual workers, and you have to continue to pay. So that obligation is continued. I think most of us have paid the March dues, and April dues are likely to be there in next week. So we need to really make the arrangements for arrangement of funds for this particular story. On the other hand, what is the situation? On the other hand, the salaries of members of the parliament and members of various state legislative assemblies were reduced voluntarily. Then central government has also done some adjustments in calculation of DA for the future period. And the Industrial Dispute Act is applicable to the factories where Section 25M recognized that natural calamity, for the cause of natural calamity, you can lay off the employees, and even this is companies and other economic units can also do this. But so on one hand you have the directives to pay, on other hand you have the provisions of, and there is also precedence coming from the members of the parliament. So really this is a challenging story for the industries to whether to pay, whether to continue, whether to stop. I also heard that this particular situation is sub judice now, and I think there are petitions pending before the Supreme Court and High Court to decide on this particular matter. So wait and watch, see what is going to happen. But the apprehension is that if the suitable economic policies and financial measures, if not brought in by the government of India to safeguard the industry and economy, then I think there is going to be the collapse, and many industries are likely to go into the insolvency because they could not sustain salary and wage bills monthly without any positive earnings. what could be done in the meanwhile that try to negotiate with your employees and request them to accept the pay cut or make payments again and adjust some leaves. So all these juggleries we can try. In the meanwhile, the courts decide what is going to happen. The experts are saying that these two orders which I have mentioned are not likely to pass the legal test, and these are not appropriate orders. But at this juncture, these orders are there, and we have to follow these orders. This is what is the situation. What is missing in the entire process is definite roadmap to bring back economy to the normal. Definite and clear-cut roadmap is expected now from the government. For fresh start of business also, some strategies are required to be delivered. Bring back migrated workers. I already discussed this. In my view, the advisory is also needed to big businesses to clear SME dues, because Act, all of us are aware, Act provides for 45 days priority for SME payments, but the big businesses are seldomly paying to the SMEs within 45 days, and at this to the extent of making the soft loans, do aggressive lending to the customers, and they are your existing customers, so you need to actually support them at this particular juncture, but in reality that is not happening. Concessions in GST, stamp, state tax and stamp duty, something is required. Salunkhe sir is always promoting this particular cause that GST should be reduced to the extent certain relief should be granted to the SMEs. Substantial reduction in electricity, fuel and other essential prices are also required. On one hand, we are looking at the international fuel prices are going down, but in India, the prices are constant. So who is earning in the entire process? There is also requirement of banning of potential litigations which are likely to arise out of this force majeure and contractual obligations. The Singapore has already introduced this banning clause, and they have clearly stated that no litigations would be allowed out of this force majeure and contractual obligations, and you have to settle within yourselves. Though the limitation period exclusion has already been provided, but that is not sufficient according to me. What business owners to do? You have to perform a mock drill for the fresh start. See, sitting at home, you have to have a 360-degree approach for your business. That what is likely to happen and how I should do it, how I should mobilize the resources. This particular mock drill is required. So whenever, and you should be mentally ready to do a fresh start. Make revised business plans, because this 3-4 months is going to lose. Further 3-4 months we are going to lose. So relevant and practical adjustments in the business plan is required. Don't carry over the earlier business plan, pre-pandemic business plan, because that is not going to work now. So sitting at home, do your revised business planning, and you only can do it. You don't need any experts' help for that. And of course, experts like me and other panelists are available whenever required. The SME chamber is also available for supporting you. Sense your market. Robin has rightly pointed out that you need to do some alterations in your market strategy, realign your strategies and product mix. Design action plan to move to e-business and e-office. Many of us have now realized the importance of sitting at home and doing a remote business activity and running a remote e-office. So try to strengthen on this particular thing. Don't see this as a calamity, but see this as an opportunity, and how you can strengthen the e-business and e-office concept, and how you can remotely monitor your entire business. Prepare plan of action for fresh start, material, machines, manpower, mobility management. All these things you need to align in your mind first, and then on the paper, and then practically. realign supply chain management and decide about inventory strategies, whether you need the current stock and how much stock you should have, and all these inventory strategies need to be realigned now. How much you buy, how much you don't buy, all these things are required to be aligned. Plan for implementation of COVID protectionary measures at the workplace, because this is going to be the future now. So implement all COVID protectionary measures at your workplace. See that they are working properly, they have been implemented properly. Plan for satisfying customers' altered need. Customers are going to come you once the business restart. The customers are going to come you to like anything, and they will put you in number of demands. So how to satisfy these altered demands is one of the biggest challenge for you as a supplier. Plan to raise working capital. I have already talked about the bankers. There is a collective attempt required on the bankers that they should lend. They should lend to the current customers. They should lend to the existing customers. Soft loans are required. Plan to make speedy recovery of dues. I already mentioned this. And plan to control expenditures and costs. This is very, very important. So if you have two businesses, one is in the green zone and one is in the red zone. So you don't, so you focus on the green zone business right now and try to accelerate that particular business, and don't look at the red zone business. Don't make any attempts to, or don't make any expenditure and incur cost on red business zone, because unless the red zone becomes completely converted into a green zone, you are not going to get any kind of a success. So focus on the green business, your business at the green zone. Otherwise, just control the cost and sit at home and look what is going to happen. So this is going to be the new earth with a mask, new vision and new normal. What are these new normals? Always ready with a business disaster management plan. So this was never thought earlier, but now in future you have to have the business disaster plan ready. Back up your resources, protect your workforce and the people. This is the most important stakeholders in your business. So protect them, give them a lot of support, give them mental strength so that they will remain with you. Insure yourself and business from all potential risks. The current insurance strategies are required to be changed, required to be amended. You will have to identify the new product mix, new insurance, and all the protection is now required. So realignment is required to that extent. Maintain excellent relations with all stakeholders. That will help you. Sorry. Create clean and green environment, reduce carbon footprint. This is for your help. We have experienced for last 2 months now that how the environment is changing, how that is helpful to us, and what the surrounding changes are happening, how they are beneficial to us. So we'll try to reduce the carbon footprints, conserve for future, plan and implement business and personal succession. This is very, very important. We have never thought that end of world will come very soon, but that is likely to come at any point in time in future. So you should have a plan ready for the business and personal succession. Today's protective cost is an investment for tomorrow. Think from that angle. Compliance today leads to a peaceful tomorrow, and therefore don't avoid any compliances. How professionals and we can support you in your journey. Analysis of the COVID impact of your business could be done. Planning and support for fresh start, then policy designing and implementation. You need to have the policies, the financial business governance, risk management and compliance policies. These are the 5-6 policies you should have. You should implement those policies. Analysis and advisory for restructuring of loans and bank funding. This is going to happen in near future. Business restructuring also would be inevitable in certain cases. Then advisory for implementation of financial controls and cost reduction measures. This is a lifelong strategy you need to adopt. Policy designing and implementation to protect business owners. The protection of a business owner is very, very important, because we are now exposed to such a situation that we never know what is going to happen, and there are stringent penalties all around the laws which we are dealing with. So the protection of a business owner and the measures towards that and achieving the succession, these are the important points where we can help you. Then advisory for understanding effective regulatory compliances is also equally important. Your compliances are, as I have mentioned, if you timely do the compliances, you can sleep comfortably for the future. Insolvency and advisory support are likely to land into this story post-COVID, so that support we can provide. Debt recovery and advisory support. Debt recovery is also going to be the challenging. Contractual and agreement support, I have already mentioned what are the gray areas coming around this. Litigation support and undertaking post-COVID business valuation. So your business valuation are definitely going to change because of this particular COVID impact. So you need to really understand what is my valuation. The yesterday's valuation may not be helpful to you. So this business valuation would be required. A fresh business valuation would be required. Friends, at the end, be positive. Look up at the sky at night and enjoy stargazing. The sky will be definitely blue again. I thank all of you for patient listening. If you have any suggestions or any questions, you can reach to me. SME Chamber already have the copy of my presentation, and I'm sure they will share with you. Thank you very much. Thank you for patient listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Makarandji. It was very, very interesting and very informative speech you have given. And I'm sure that all the entrepreneurs, those are live and they are watching and listening to you, definitely they will take away from some points which is very relevant and very useful for their business during their difficult situation. One participant has mentioned the question that we know the problems, we are facing problems, we want solution. So you had given at least 17, 18 solutions when you are in difficult situation, when you are in a problem, when you are facing any issue. The COVID is an invisible enemy. And in business, particularly in SME business, there are visible, invisible, many issues and problems that hurdles are faced by our SME sector. And when you mention about it, particularly the labor, workman force, how to retain, how to tackle their issues, what the government orders given by the particularly to retain their workers, to retain their staff, retain their employees. I suggest, particularly entrepreneurs, those are into manufacturing industry, look at the policy, look at the directions given by the government, and if you have any suggestions, if you have any particular issues or any feedback you want to provide, please write to us. We will take up to the concerned departments. And so particularly, another very interesting point raised by one of the delegates, that how we can reform our business. Because this is a time now to restructure, reform, rethink about your business values, business activities, or particularly business planning. Coming days will be very difficult. Few days will be difficult. But after that, there will be a huge and abundant market will be open for you. Because you look at the European market, look at the European people, look at the European people's health. How many deaths are there? How many deaths in the USA? So around 196 countries facing COVID-19. And we should give a thanks to our Prime Minister who has taken very drastic steps and put the second lockdown. Even the Makarandji, his first para said, we were waiting for a 3rd May's announcement. If lockdown is extended, what to be done, how to be done? For that purpose, we will be coming back to you on the 4th May with another webinar, where what will be the situation, what will be the steps to be taken for the 3rd lockdown if announced by the government. So with this word, particularly, I want to highlight particularly related to our workforce, and I want to introduce Mihir to give in brief what are the suggestions given by the Mr. Makarand Lele. Other than that, how we can, retain our workforce, how we can support them, while their difficult time. Mihir, over to you.
Mr. Mihir, you'll have to unmute your mic.
Mihir, unmute your mic, please.
Mihir, mic तुमचा. Yes, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, go ahead, Mihir.
All right. Okay. Yes. So, like I was saying, can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So, since I'm the last speaker, I will not take much time. I will put my points in brief. Now, these are definitely unprecedented times. These are difficult times, and our entire country is not only facing health crisis, but also severe financial crisis. So, basis that, I would be discussing in brief the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the corporate sector, with special emphasis on employment-related concerns during and after the lockdown. Now, as we know, the MSMEs and the SMEs are one of the most important arms of the Indian economy. And they together represent over 90 to 95% of all industrial units in India. Now, in India, we have around 60 to 70 million MSMEs, which is providing employment to almost 40% of our entire industrial workforce. So this is a very important arm, but this is also one of the most vulnerable arms, especially in times like these where we have the COVID-19 situation, we have the lockdown in force. And it is said that if the lockdown continues this way and if the financial crisis continue, then 30 to 40% of the MSMEs may have to shut operations. So obviously, one important aspect which everyone is looking at is to reduce costs and to control the cash flows. And amongst the different avenues, one important avenues which the MSMEs or SMEs are looking at.
Mihir, sorry to interrupt. We are not able to see your presentation.
Yes, can you see it now? Hello?
We are not able to see your presentation.
It's being shared as we speak. Can't you see it?
Yeah, just recheck.
Can you see now?
So we are only able to see your file. There's a file. So you'll have to start that.
There is some issue then. Just give me a minute. Let me just rectify this.
Or you can go ahead without the presentation. We can share your presentation later on also.
Okay, just give me a minute. Since we already... Is this visible?
Yeah. Now you can go ahead.
Okay, this format is visible. Okay. Seems to be some issue. Yes. So, like I was saying, one of the avenues which the MSMEs are looking at is payment deductions, layoffs, and terminations. So, while these are important aspects, one must always remember that there are various employment laws in the country which govern these aspects, and there are various government orders which have been passed due to the lockdown. Orders have been passed by the central government, orders have been passed by the concerned state government. So these are all important aspects which must be considered before any deduction of payments are done. Now, one important order which has been passed by the Ministry of Home Affairs, Government of India, is the order dated 29th March 2020. And this particular order has been passed under the Disaster Management Act. And this order says and rather directs all employers to not deduct the payment of the wages of their workers during the lockdown, and the same should be paid on time without any delay. And I quote the relevant paragraph of that particular order. It says, all the employers, may it be in the industry or in shops and commercial establishments, shall make payment of wages of their workers at their workplaces on due date without any deduction for the period their establishments are under closure during the lockdown. So this is one important aspect which has to be remembered. There is another resolution which has been passed by the government of Maharashtra on 31st March 2020, which has been made applicable to public as well as private employers. And again, the resolution directs employers to not deduct payment of wages to their workers during the lockdown period. Now, what is to be understood is that whether these orders are applicable to each and every employee. Then the answer is no. These orders are not applicable to each and every employee. There are certain employees which are exempted from the application of these orders, especially your managerial or administrative level employees. There are certain supervisory level employees which are exempted. So to understand which are the exact employees which fall under this criteria and whose payments cannot be deducted or whose wages cannot be deducted, you may have to refer to the Industrial Disputes Act, which has defined workers, workmen, and they are the workers which have to be considered. So anyone who's looking into this avenue for deducting wages, they could seek appropriate legal advice before taking the necessary steps. Now, another important aspect is that this particular order or these orders which I mentioned earlier have been passed under a Disaster Management Act, which has a penal provision. So there is a punishment for employers who are violating these orders. And I quote the relevant paragraph of that order. It is further directed that in case of violation of any of the above measures, the respective state or union territory government shall take necessary action under the Act. Now, what is the action that can be taken is provided under Section 51B of the Disaster Management Act, and I quote, whoever refuses to comply with any direction given by or on behalf of the central government or the state government or the National Executive Committee or the State Executive Committee or the district authority under this Act shall on conviction be punishable with imprisonment for a term which may extend to 1 year or with fine or with both. So this is very important to keep in mind. There is a penal provision for disobeying this order. And if any employer deducts wages in violation of these orders, could even face imprisonment. So it is very important to seek proper legal advice before taking any such steps. Now, post-lockdown situation. Now, what are we looking at post the lockdown situation? Like I said, these two orders are primarily enforced only during the term of the lockdown, which in simple words means after the lockdown is recalled, payments or wages due to these workers who are protected by these orders can also be deducted. Now, at the time of deducting wages of these workers after lockdown, we have to keep in mind that there are several employment laws which govern these aspects. And there are these laws provide for different procedures which have to be mandatorily followed before reducing payments. For example, you have your Industrial Disputes Act, which has a section 9A, and I quote the relevant section. No employer who proposes to effect any change in the condition of service applicable to any workman in respect of any matter specified in the 4th schedule shall effect such change without giving to the workman likely to be affected by such change a notice in the prescribed manner of the nature of change proposed to be effected, or B, within 21 days of giving such notice. So there is a mandatory notice of 21 days which has to be given. There is a 4th schedule in the Act which provides for all the conditions which, if they are to be changed, then the mandatory notice has to be given. Then you have laws like your Minimum Wages Act, which empowers concerned governments to have minimum criteria for payment of wages, beyond which wages cannot be deducted. So again, it's very important to seek proper legal advice after the post-lockdown scenario also at the time of deducting wages, so that to make sure you're compliant with these orders, with these laws. Now, these orders which have been passed have been passed to protect the rights of workers. However, on the other side, there are employers who are facing practical difficulties. So it is not viable for all SMEs, MSMEs to keep paying wages in 100% to all their workers, especially when they are in large numbers. So there are some companies, some employers who have approached the Honorable Supreme Court against these orders. We've had employers from Ludhiana, we've had employers from Mumbai itself. There's a textile company based in Mumbai who has filed, which has filed a petition before the Supreme Court challenging these orders passed by the Ministry of Home Affairs dated 29th March and the one passed by the Maharashtra government on 31st March. And the petition says that these orders are arbitrary and they are in violation of Article 14 and Article 19 of the Indian Constitution. And it is not practical for employers to keep paying wages without deduction, especially when their businesses are not functional at all. One important question which has been raised in that particular petition is whether the government of India and the government of Maharashtra is empowered to issue direction to private establishments like the petitioner to pay 100% wages under the Disaster Management Act. Now, what is to be understood here is that Disaster Management Act per se does not deal with any employment-related concerns. There are employment-related laws like the Industrial Disputes Act, the Minimum Wages Act, and so on. So, the powers which have been given to the government under the Disaster Management Act are wide, and these powers have been used to issue directions to private individuals, private employers, regarding even employment. So it has to be seen whether such orders are valid in law, and it will be interesting to see what orders the Supreme Court passes and what is the way ahead for us. Looking ahead from here, post the lockdown situation, I believe there are some points which the SMEs, the MSMEs should keep in mind and should implement in their daily work life. First of all, they should focus on health. I believe every SME should have a policy in place regarding health in the post-lockdown and COVID situation, wherein there are do's and don'ts for the employees. Control costs is one important aspect. Since there is no clarity on which way the market is going to go ahead, cost audits could be conducted to understand what are the inessential costs which the companies are undertaking and what can be avoided. Third important aspect is a digital push. It is very important for SMEs to be well acquainted with technology in these times. 60% of our SMEs, MSMEs are still offline and are working under traditional methods. So platforms like e-commerce should be explored, especially by those who are into the manufacturing industry. Shorter targets are again important, I believe. There should be weekly reviews instead of long-term targets to understand business development. Representation by organizations is also important. Like we've heard Chandrakant ji saying earlier, and we have organizations, thankfully we have organizations like the SME Chamber of India, who is providing representation before various bodies of the governments regarding various concerns raised by SMEs, MSMEs. So we should raise our concerns to platforms like the SME Chamber of India, and due representation can be made to the government. And finally, what is important is to be human. Now, I understand there is a financial difficulty faced by a lot of SMEs, and avenues are being explored like deduction of payment, termination of employees, layoffs. Obviously, there are laws to that effect which have to be, which the provisions have to be complied with. However, it is important to be human and even understand the aspect of workers and their what impact it will have on their lifestyle and families. So unless it is absolutely essential, such measures should not be taken. And finally, we come to some opportunities which India is looking at. Like it said, in every adversity, there is an opportunity. And I believe this COVID situation can also be an opportunity for India in the future. We have seen the position in China. A lot of companies, foreign companies, are looking at pulling out of China and looking at other alternatives. India is one such alternative. From what we've heard in reports of news channels, over 1,000 foreign companies are looking to reach out to India. 300 of such companies are in active talks with the government and are pursuing plans to shift their base to India. These companies are involved in various sectors like mobiles, electronics, medical devices, textiles, synthetic fibers, and so on. So this is, again, a good opportunity for MSMEs to take it up. Startups are looking to move to India. A lot of startups who are in China are looking to move to India. So again, all these aspects would generate more employment and would boost the economy. Some big names which are looking to move out of China are Apple's manufacturing partner, Wistron Corporation. We have Pegatron, which assembles iPhone, which is again looking to move out of India. Out of China. From Korea, we have companies like POSCO and Hyundai Steel who are looking to come to India. Recently, we've also seen big partnerships happening between big companies like Facebook and Jio, which is again a positive news. So all this aspect could be beneficial if the government takes the right steps at the right time and ensures that these companies come to India, which will obviously boost the economy and generate a lot of employment for the days to come. So in the meantime, I believe we should stay positive and hope for the best and keep having such webinars where ideas and information is shared. With this, I come to the end of my short presentation, and I'm giving my email ID here. If there are any queries, you could reach out to me. I've also given my firm's website where you could reach, using which you could reach to us. And thank you for your time. And back to you, Chandrakant.
Thank you, Nihar. Very interesting and important information given by you. There are so many entrepreneurs are having doubts, particularly for their retaining their workers or paying their salaries and all these things. So this is one. And second thing, there are issues come up now. Questions are also coming about, particularly for this related to your topic. So I will share with you that topic, the questions. And mostly Mihir, Nihar, or Makarandji, or Mr. Seth, these are all experts are giving very, very useful and very interesting information to entrepreneurs. Particularly, the running business means you have to keep an eye on what are the compliances you are doing. If the compliance is not proper, then ultimately your business is the problem. So one Mr. Bharat Shah has mentioned that so many issues. We know that we want solution. So these all the speakers are providing solutions. Solutions which is rectifying your business, solutions to resolve your issues, solutions for business growth, solutions for particularly for business transformation. Mr. Robin Banerjee had given a very, very interesting talk about particularly business transformation. Business transformation is now need of hour because business restructuring, business transformation, and business regeneration is very, very important for the coming days. And I hope that SME sector will adopt this strategy and will adopt this strategy into enhance business, tap the new business opportunity. And while doing this, we pay the GST. While doing the business, we think that we have to pay taxes. Taxes is useful for the nation's development, nation's growth. Entrepreneurs are rather not taking any salary from the government, but ultimately they are paying taxes to the government to run the nation. So coming to the point of GST, when we think about GST, I remember always in 24 hours Shailesh said. Shailesh said is very, very solid person from the GST point of view, particularly from the law and particularly from the legal point of view. So I welcome Shailesh Bhai to give you your insight, particularly to understand the entrepreneurs, those are not having the knowledge about particularly the depth knowledge about the GST. We pay GST, that's it, but we don't know what is our consultant is doing, what is our charter account is doing, particularly what is the suggestions you want to give, how entrepreneurs should keep an eye. What is the developments happening in my business? What is my consultant is doing? How my accountant is taking care of my work? And mostly, what are the government has announced, particularly the benefit of the SME sector, manufacturing industry, particularly any entrepreneurs from the GST perspective. Welcome, Shailesh Bhai. Over to you. Thank you. Your voice is not there. Can you
unmute your mic?
Please unmute your mic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Salunkhe, for your kind and appreciative words. It's a tough time to speak on a GST, on a webinar, when we are almost approaching the lunch hours. Not many feel to take over. My previous learned speakers have dealt with the topics in their own perspective and given many useful hints and insight into the particular subject. we are all now facing the debilitating impact of the COVID-19 on the businesses. Economy as a whole is bearing the brunt, as we are now witnessing, particularly post-lockdown, which has become absolutely inevitable. And we are actually seeing the fruitfulness of this particular bold step taken by the Honorable PM. The economic activities have come to standstill. MSME sector is probably one of the, if not one of the, in my personal opinion, is the worst hit sector because of its inherent structural constraints. A recent survey says 25% of the 6.90 MSME units across the country may be facing ultimately the complete shutters down if the lockdown is continued.
I think Mahesh, he lost his internet, looks like.
We have lost his connection. So please go ahead.
I think, friends, there is some technical errors, technical issues coming up now. Mr. Seth has lost his connection. We'll wait for a few seconds. Mahesh, you can try, you can call him and just check whether he can join again. Because he's very important speaker.
So till then, Nihar has one question in...
Okay, Nihar, you can go ahead.
I think he's back. I think Shailesh is back.
Or even Mihir, if you want to add something.
Sir, I think Shailesh is back, sir. Just I think I see his connection.
Okay, Shailesh, you can start again. Shailesh, you can continue. Nihar, meanwhile, you can take a question. Nihar, unmute your mic.
Okay. There is one question which I can see is we are currently working under permission for pharma material essential items. My question is to Nihar, can we deduct wages of workers who are not able to come in spite of notice given to them? Now, there is another response to this by Mr. Karthik regarding a circular in Gujarat, which has been issued by Gujarat government for employees who are not coming even after notice. So that has to be looked into, but I presume this particular question relates to Maharashtra. And the issue is the circular dated 31st March is a widely interpreted circular, and which says deduction should not happen. They have not classified if someone is coming or if someone is not coming. So what the best thing to do is to get more clarity on this, and we need to see what the Supreme Court has to pass. Where there are petitions which have been filed in the Supreme Court. So if these orders are set aside, then we are completely free to deduct wages for those employees who are not coming. However, even if we are permitted to deduct wages, if that order is set aside, we have to follow provisions of the various employment laws. If there is a mandatory notice period, regardless of the reason, you have to give the notice period. Those provisions have to be followed. So the best thing for now is to wait and see what orders the Supreme Court passes. I'm sure the order would be coming soon because this is a question which is of great importance. Is there anything else that we could take up?
Yeah, Nihar, there is another question for you. Can you just elaborate on the sectors which companies are looking to invest in India, if possible, as of now?
Sorry?
There is one question from Mr. Kapil Batra. Just refer to the chat.
Okay. There is one question which I can see is from Mr. Anand Doshi. What is your opinion on the payment of wages? Do you agree with the view of the government? If not, can the same SME body not take this issue with the government authorities? Now, what has to be understood here is the government. I mean, if you take my personal view, then even if you deduct some percentage, like say 25% or 30% of the wages, and still protect your finances, it will be a good way of going ahead with it. Because even if you deduct wages up to a certain percentage, it will still ensure that the worker's family survives. But to mandatorily force private employers to pay 100% wages, and especially when the businesses are not functioning, it's not a very just order that the government has come up with. They have to consider aspects, and they have to consider the problems faced by the employer as well. Especially MSMEs, MSCs, they don't have a lot of financial stocked up. So it is not practically possible for employers to pay 100% salaries and wages. So it's not a very good order, and I hope the Supreme Court passes some reliefs in the times to come. And yes, like we said, like I said earlier, also the SME Chamber of India is an option available for us to take up issues. So we can write our concerns to Chandrakant ji, to SME Chamber of India, and we are sure due representation would be made before the concerned governments. In this case, this order was passed by the Minister of Home Affairs. So I'm sure something can be, the SME Chamber can take this issue up with the Minister of Home Affairs. They could also take it up with the Maharashtra government, who has also passed the second subsequent notice. So yes, that's the way forward, which I think, in my opinion.
Okay. Anything, Mihir, you want to add something?
I'm good, sir. I was reading few chats and some questions. Friends, let me clarify. There is no restriction on export or import of goods to any country. So whether you want to export goods to China or you want to export goods to Malaysia or USA, whatever the countries, there's no restriction on the country segment. There is obviously certain restriction on the products. So your export of ventilators, masks, things which are going to be used at the moment in the COVID situation, those products have been restricted. But if you have a normal item which has been exported, there is no restriction on import or export from any country. It is all up to you from where you want to source, and is your source, if your supplier available to deliver to you the goods, there is no problem whatsoever. So I think that was one of the questions which I could look at various chat options. Whether you want to export non-woven fabric. So non-woven fabric, I don't see an issue there unless it is considered only exclusively raw material for the masks. But if it is not only for the masks, if it's a general non-woven product, I don't think that there's an issue. Somebody mentioned about some certification with EIA. My suggestion to you is, if there's a pendency on a certification and there's a lockdown, I'm sure if it is a Mumbai office, they would have their contact numbers, which is one as Pilot House at Andheri. You might want to try their contact numbers and check with them, or send an email and confirm with them regarding your thing, and you might get a soft copy of your certificate or your registration, product registration, which is pending for a long time. So I think these are the two quick questions which I could run through. I'm probably hearing Shailesh Bhai joining back. So if he's available, I think we would want to hear him. Shailesh Bhai, if you are there, we want to hear you, sir. Yes, Shailesh Bhai is there. Shailesh Bhai, you'll have to unmute again, sir.
Yes, go ahead, Shailesh Bhai.
Sir, you'll have to unmute, sir.
Unmute your mic. Yes, go ahead. Shailesh Bhai, go ahead. Shailesh Bhai, you can go ahead now.
Yeah. Okay. So sorry, there is some technical problem. Now, the sector.
Speak loudly.
Speak loudly. Sector which is facing the the aftermath of the COVID-19 and this the devastating impact of the lockdown obviously looks forward to the huge losses of the relief of the right description. This is like a serious ailment when only one particular medicine will not do. There could be a combination of medicines. It could be in the context of the financial packages, the compliance related relaxations. It can be in the customs. It can be in the foreign trade policy, which Mihir Bhai has already covered. And GST obviously is one of the most potent medicines, which can, even if it cannot fully cure the sector, but it can provide the desired immunity to the sector to remain afloat and then to recover very, very fully once we win this fight over this COVID-19, which we will. I'll just divide my overall talk into two parts. The relief measures which have already been announced till date, and in very short time because of the time constraints, as well as what further developments could be in the offing, and what is desirable, what the government can really do, particularly for the MSME sector. The reliefs which have been announced are, as of now, are combination of mainly the compliance related issues, to some extent having some minimal financial impact, not much, I regret to say. Let us take them one by one. I will not go into the technicalities of the notification numbers or any such sections and otherwise. I'll just go by the description and the broad contours of the relaxations which have already been announced. These announcements follow the 39th GST Council meeting, as well as the first media press conference which was held jointly by Honorable Finance Minister along with the State Minister of Finance, and announcing the various reliefs. These have been subsequently effectuated by the various notifications number or issued on 3rd April 2020. Just for the record's sake, it is 31 by 2020 to 36 by 2020. These are the notifications which cover the gamut of relaxations which have been announced. Taking first the GSTR1, which is basically the outward supply return, which is to be filed on a monthly basis and by the small taxpayers, registered taxpayers on the quarterly basis. There is a waiver of the complete late fee if the monthly returns for March to May 20 or the quarterly return ending March. I will repeat. Monthly returns for March 20 to May 20 or quarterly return for the quarter ending March 20, irrespective of the turnover, if these returns are filed up to 30th June 2020, then the late fee will not be chargeable on late filing of the return. Here, one may keep it in mind that there is no extension of the due date. Only a condition of filing the return up to 30th June has been prescribed for the waiver of the late fee. So if these returns for any of the months from March 20 to May or quarter ending March is filed beyond 30th June, then late fee will be chargeable from the original due date till the date of filing the return. Please bear in mind, there is no extension of due date, but the waiver of late fee is made conditional on filing the return on or before 30th June for this specific period, where the turnover is not a criteria. Coming to the GSTR 3B, which is basically where through which you really discharge, which reflects the amount of credit available during the month, as well as the tax payable, and finally it is paid to the cash or paid to the debit to the input tax credit account. There are a sort of a cobweb of the relaxations announced, because it is of the different descriptions. It is a turnover-wise relaxation, it is a state-wise categorization, making it a maze of the relaxation. It is not a simple thing. So let us listen to it look into it very carefully. First of all, let us take about the waiver of interest and late fee. I am now on GSTR 3B. The first category is the registered taxpayers having a turnover of more than 5 crore in the preceding financial year. These people above 5 crore, the interest for the period February to April, not for May. I repeat, not for May. For February 20 to April 20, they can file the return up to 24th June 2020. It means the liability would stand discharged on 24th June 2020 for February to April period for the registered taxpayer above 5 crore. In that case, there will be the interest liability will be of 9% with the total waiver of the late fee. There is no waiver of complete interest. The interest liability will be of 9% if the return is filed beyond original due date but before 24th June 2020. However, as a pleasant surprise, which the Honorable FM had not even announced in the speech, there is a 15 days grace period given for this period. So if the March return is to be filed, say, by 10th of April 2020, or by say 20th April, the April return is to be filed by say 20th May 2020. In that case, I'm just giving a hypothetical date. Then first, there will be a 15 days grace period. Up to 5th June, if it is filed, then there will not be any interest. But provided it is filed up to 24th June. However, if it is filed beyond 24th June, in that case, interest at full applicable 18% rate will be charged right from the original due date till the date of filing 3B. This is very important because there is again no due date extension here. It is only a conditional waiver based upon the adhering to the due date, new date announced. By 24th June, it is to be filed by the taxpayers above 5 crore for February 20 to April 20. In that case, up to 15 days, there will no be. From the original due date by a grace period of 15 days, no interest liability. From the 16th day till, suppose the taxpayer files it on 24th June, then from the 16th day of the up to 24th June, there will be interest liability of 9%. But if it goes beyond 24th June, then 18% interest will be leviable right from the original due date. Then the second is the taxpayer with a turnover between 1.5 crore to 5 crore. Again, no interest. Here there is no interest liability and no late fee provided these people filed the return for February and March by 29th June. February and March by 29th June, for April by 30th June. There is no interest liability and then there is no late fee. However, if this date is missed, then for each month, the interest liability and late fee will be computed from the original due date. Taxpayers with the below 1.5 crore turnover, for February 20, the return can be filed up to 30th June without interest, without late fee. For March 20, 3rd July, without interest, without late fee. For April 20, 6th July, without interest, without late fee. In all these cases, friends, there is no extension of the due date. Please bear it in mind. And interest liability total waiver is only in respect of the below 5 crore turnover people, subject to adhering to their condition of filing the return by the particular date. But there is a 9% interest liability which is fixed upon the above 5 crore large taxpayers. As far as the May 20 is concerned, again there is a categorization, there is an extension of the due date. Now this is very interesting. There is a due date extension for May 20. For more than 5 crore, the new date will be 27 June. Less than 5 crore in certain specified states like Gujarat, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, the Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, the MP, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, etc. The new date will be 12th July. And for other states, which are the note, again just to give you a reference, 36 by 2020 central tax. For less than 5 crore situated within other states, the new date will be 14 July. So for May 20, there is an extension of due date, which are again 3 dates. One, above 5 crore, irrespective of the place of business, it will be 27 June. For certain specified states where the registered taxpayers are located, it is 12th July. And for other states, it is 14 July. And if it is filed by this date, there is a, for May 20, obviously there will not be any interest or late fee or whatever. But if it is filed beyond this, then again the interest liability and late fee will accrue. Coming to one of the most headache rule which has been introduced in August 2019, and that is Rule 36(4). That is keeping the ITC availability to 10% of the reconciled or reflected invoices in the 2A in case any invoices of the vendors are not reflected in 2A. This rule, I may clarify, this rule, validity of this rule is already under challenge before the various high courts. Be that as it may, this 10% capping of the credit has been put on suspension for the period from February 20 to August 20. For February 20 to August 20, the taxpayer, irrespective of the class, irrespective of the state, and irrespective of the turnover, need not apply this mandate of capping the credit at 10% of the reconciled credit in case of any invoices not reflected on the 2A for February to August. However, for the month of September 20, when the 3B return is filed, at that time, for the entire February 20 to September 20, cumulatively, the effect of the 10% capping will have to be taken into account by the tax.
I think Shailesh Bhai again lost his network. Hello, friends. So is there any question to answer by Mihir or Mr. Lele?
Also, if I could add, there is one, Mr. Karthik has said there's a government notification by the Gujarat government which permits the reduction of wages for employees for workers who are not coming to work. Now, what has to be understood is that this could be a conflict with the order passed by the Minister of Home Affairs, which is a central government body. And since employment is a concurrent matter, which means orders can be passed by centre as well as the state. And if there is a conflict, then obviously the orders passed by the central government would prevail. So again, do not rush into deducting wages. I think a proper legal advice should be sought even in case of workers in Gujarat.
Okay.
Yes.
I think, Mr. Lele, I would like to suggest all of you. I will also talk to Shailesh Bhai later on.
Yes, sir.
4 things. One, why don't you create one FAQ? FAQ on export-import. What is the current situation? How the entrepreneurs will understand. Similarly, Makarandji, you can also prepare. Niharji, you can also prepare FAQ. Even Shailesh Bhai on GST point of view, because a lot of entrepreneurs are having many doubts. They have issues and problems, but how we can provide them solutions. So I suggest all of you on behalf of SME Chamber to give the FAQs from the SME entrepreneurs, particularly to understand easy way. Because most of the entrepreneurs are not understanding the compliances part, but they can grow their business, they can use the technology, they can use the value addition services for a business growth. But somehow, some points on the compliances part, they are not understanding. They have to rely on their profession. And I want to suggest all the entrepreneurs from the SME sector or from manufacturing industry or exports, I think you should take a guidance regularly from your experts. The experts, legal firms, advisors, particularly the experts from the industry segment. So this is very, very important for you to transform your business, improve your business. And mostly, government is looking what business ethics you're adopting, what kind of, the governance you're adopting for your running your business. With these words, I'm thankful to all the speakers those that share their knowledge and, particularly, points which is useful for the entrepreneurs. And I request all the participants, those are in line those are listening by audio on the Facebook also, share your questions, share your issues and problems so that, we can include in FAQ and it will be good for you to understand the proper way to run your business. And I hope that, to request the Honorable Prime Minister not to extend the lockdown, to open the economy and to give us some particular breathing space to start our business. With this word, I'm thankful to all of you. Thank to all the participants, those who have joined today. Thank you. I look forward to see you soon again in the SME talks, because most of the SMEs are using the various concepts, various technology, unique ideas to run their business. So next time will be the SME talks, the experience and knowledge, and particularly what kind of the quality development they are adopting. So with this word, I'm thankful to all of you. Thank you very much to all of you. And thanks to my IT team and my chamber team for providing the very good platform to my speakers as well as my delegates. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye. Okay.